no sé si me veis. Aquí estoy, me llamo Estefanía. Bien, ¿cómo se llama? Bienvenidos a otra noche con Bulgaria. Vale, os presento y le presento a vosotros un colega que se llama Alejandro, en búlgaro le llamamos Sasho, que nos va a hablar un poquito sobre los árboles centenarios en Sofia sobre todo y un poco en los alrededores. Entonces le paso a Alejandro, a Sasho. Voy a poner la presentación y él después va hablando. Vale, aquí lo tenéis. ¿Será algo? Vais a ver cómo.
Ajá.
¿Lo veis ahora?
Sí.
Sí.
Vale, perfecto. Bien. Как се скрива обаче, не знам. Vale, no sé cómo esconder esto, así que vais a ver la presentación entera. Bien.
Pone, bueno, donde pone animation, otra, ahí a lo mejor te deja ver la acusa.
No sé, vale, mejor no hacerlo, nos da igual.
Vale, vale.
Bien, no sé cómo hacerlo. Soy analfabética y tengo problemas con la técnica. Ya lo sabéis. Vale.
Estefana, abajo en el borde naranja, la tercera icona creo que es la que hay que darle. Abajo en el borde. Dice, no, la siguiente, la otra. Para el otro lado. Para el otro lado.
Aquí.
La siguiente, la otra. No, esta última. Esa.
Esa.
Esta.
Y ahora está, bien, perfecto. Pero ahora no os vamos a ver. Porque ahora vemos solamente la presentación. Bueno.
Nosotros sí que os vemos a vosotros.
Vale, seguimos.
Hazlo como que sea más fácil.
Hola a todos, buenas tardes.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Yo soy Alejandro. Me gradué en arquitectura paisajista en la Universidad Forestal en Sofía, pero trabajo como un investigador. Hoy os hablaré de los árboles centenarios en la región de Sofía. Lo siento, pero hablo muy poco español, así que continuaré en inglés. Podéis seguir el texto en inglés o español. Perdonad por los errores en el texto de español. I will continue in English now for our friends. I will say first, buonasera, dobry večer, dobar večer to all participants. My name is Alexander, and I will present you now some words about the old trees in the region of Sofia. And let's start now. This is first for our Bulgarian friends. When I was preparing this presentation, I found this thought of a cultural anthropologist about the old trees. And now I will show you the text in Spanish and English. And I was thinking that it is interesting to share this with you, all of you. And in fact, when we talk about old trees, they are centuries old, so we could go back in centuries to see their history. And there are many documents left from the Crusaders who crossed the country on their way to the Holy Sepulchre in the 9th and 13th centuries. And they were also saying about very old trees at that time and primeval forests on the territory of the today's Bulgaria. Also, if you read some texts in books from the Middle Ages, the 13th or 14th century, and you will find a lot of texts which describe the situation at that time. And we can understand that there have been a lot of forests and mountains with water there running from the mountains, and of course a lot of trees, which unfortunately in the past, in the late century, let's say in the 19th century of the Ottoman Turkish Empire, have been cut for the needs of the Turkish army at that time. So it is hard to imagine today what it has been around the city, but we can still find some remnants of that times. And you can see how the field of the city looked in the end of the 19th century.
Y ahora.
Some time ago, there was a foundation called Sound Glass, which established a route in the city to show the ancient trees in the ancient city, as they called it, to people who would be interested to see, which comes from the central area through one of the parks of the city and ends in another place. I will show you later these trees. And why, in fact, all trees are so interesting to us. The fact that they have survived so many years and centuries could show that they are in a very good health status, and they are very good genetic source for other plantations. And it is interesting to explore them. And apart, this is the aesthetic value of these trees in old parks of the city. And of course, we have to know how old these trees are, and this could be done with some devices. And maybe the most widely used is this borer or drill, Pressler's borer, which helps us to establish the age of the tree, and also to see how it grew through the years. And there is a whole science, I would say, called dendrochronology, which deals with this. And it's very interesting, and it is widely used by archaeologists, dendrologists, and many other people. And this lets us know not only the age of the trees, but also the health status, and if there have been bad or good years through the centuries. And it's something like, let's say, biopsy in medicine, something like this. And of course, there are many tools, more modern tools, like tomography, let's say, for trees, and resistographs, which could give us a clear idea about the status of the trunk and the tree. And it is widely used in urban areas, first of all, because we can have a very clear idea about what is happening inside the tree. These are one of the oldest trees in the central area. This is the former garden of the royal palace. Now is the city garden. And in 1971, people from the University of Forestry decided to check the age of this of these trees, and they used this Pressler drill. And at that time, the age of these trees was 208 years. So it is 1971, and as you can see, they still exist there. Maybe this is more clear, this picture here. On your left, this is a London plane tree, and on your right is an oak tree. And in the background is the former royal palace. Another interesting tree in the central area is the silk tree, Levski's silk tree. This is Morus alba in Latin. It's almost the same age because they did, sorry, I will go a bit further. They did same investigation here in 1971 again, and the age of the tree was 228 years. It is very funny. You can see on this plate, it is written 650 years right here. And it is considered to be the oldest citizen of the city. And on this plate, which is just on the left of the other one, it is written 220 years. So this Pressler drill or tomography or resistograph, they give us the opportunity to check the real age or approximately the age of the tree. And it is called the silk tree of Levski. Levski is a very popular national hero in Bulgaria. At his time, there used to be a lot of inns around this tree. And when he was visiting the city to organize revolutionary committees, he used to leave his horse under the tree. And that's why it is called Levski's silk tree. Another one is the so-called Ferdinand's oak. This is the botanic garden of the University of Sofia, St. Clement Ohridsky, right in the heart of the city. The garden was established in 1892, and this oak was planted in the same year by the King Ferdinand of that time. And they say that he left a golden coin before he planted the tree. It is in very good condition, by the way. It is maintained very well and regularly checked by specialists and arborists, and it is still in a very good shape. This is common oak, Quercus robor, and you can see here, this is the medal which has been given by King Ferdinand to distinguished people of his time, and you can see the oak leaves here, a symbol of eternity and power. And so this is the so-called Ferdinand's oak. And this king was very well known as a passionate botanist, entomologist, and philatelist. So he did a lot of field work with specialists around the country. And they have discovered a lot of tree and grass species in the mountains in Bulgaria. This is part of the route which goes to an area which has been in the past a place for entertainment and of summer houses, gardens, a lot of forests here. And there are lots of oaks, between 70 and 20 something. This area is called Lozenets. And these oaks have been planted by two distinguished persons, a father and a son, Slaveikovs. Petko and Pencho, who were very famous writers and poets, and very well known in the societies, and they established a kind of society for literature. This was their own estate at that time, let's say private forest, and they gave it to the municipality, and they used to gather there with their friends, other writers and artists and people of art, and they were talking about literature and all kinds of arts. And these oaks still grow there. What I'm telling you has happened in 1855 or something like this. And here you can see even some plates with poems of these people. Now the area is surrounded by buildings and...
Y una curiosidad es que a mí me encantan estos árboles, pero aquí, por aquí, viven mis familiares. Nada que ver con los robles, pero bien, viven por aquí mis familiares. Bien.
So,
curiosidad.
And and you can still pictures of this place, and on your left, on the left, you can see how they are measured. These are colleagues from our university. We did this work together. And by the way, this measurement is one of the most precise to calculate the diameter of the trunk. And you can see even in the streets, there are some oaks of that time. Another tree, which this is an old picture. Unfortunately, this tree does not exist anymore. This is Ivan Vazov's oak in the same area, Lozenets. It's quite a huge area, by the way. I will tell you about later about this person. And here you can see some other oaks in Bankia. Bankia is a satellite town of Sofia. Part of the municipality, and all these oaks were planted by this person, and he used to go there. He liked nature very much, and he liked to walk in the city and watch the people and to talk to them, and he used to go there and stay with his friends and talk about literature, or he was writing his novels under the shade of these trees. And he's also called the patriarch of the Bulgarian literature. And one of the trees he planted is a spruce in one of the parks of the city. Unfortunately, I have no picture of it, but what is interesting is that he did it in 1885, and at that time was 1,000 years from the death of Methodios, one of the Bulgarian brothers who established the Slavic and Bulgarian alphabet. And this spruce is also called Vaso Spruce. Another oak, again in this area, the Oak of Bezenschek. It was planted in 1879, if I'm not wrong. It still exists, and it's the name of Anton Bezenschek, who came from Slovenia and used to live here and spent most of his life and worked in Bulgaria, in particular in Sofia, and he adapted the shorthand or stenography system to the South Slavic languages, and especially to Bulgarian language. And so he is called the father of the Bulgarian stenography, and he worked in Sofia University since 1911 until his death in 1915, and he was buried here in Sofia. And the wife of his grandson established a society called Bezenschek Society under this oak in 2007. Of course, all trees are announced all this time. Here you can see some old plane trees in the central area. They grow very well. By the way, this is not far from the place I live, so I can see them almost every day, and they really are very nice. And here on the background, there is a monument of the Ukrainian poet Taras Shevchenko, and the municipality announced them as old trees. I don't remember, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And these are recent pictures of some of them. They are 7, growing, as you can see, quite well still. On your right, you can see an old oak. We tried to calculate its age. It should be about 500 years old. This is also due to some documents, historic documents. This is in the foot of the Vitusha mountain, and about these oaks you can read in all these stories written by Evliya Çelebi and the other Turkish distinguished travelers, about whom I told you a bit in the beginning. You can see the condition is not very good. The municipality has some problems here because the property is private, but at least the cars have been moved a bit to the right on the picture. But the condition is really not very good. But anyway, it still exists, and there is a very interesting and funny story. When Ferdinand was a king, and local people were telling him that there are oaks in this area which are about 400 years old, but they are not sure about it. And he told them, he ordered to cut one of them and make from it a vessel to water the animals in the zoo. And when they cut the tree, they counted 400 tree rings, which means that they really were 400 years old. And of course, you can find a lot of oak trees in monasteries and churches around the city. Here some oaks in one of the small monasteries around in the Vitusha mountain. They should be about 500 years old, but we can't tell exactly. And this is the Buoyant Church, which dates back from the 10th century. It is under UNESCO's protection. It has survived until today. These are giant sequoia, or you can see him here a bit better. And why is it under UNESCO's protection? Because it has wonderful frescoes which have been preserved until today, and they date back about 100 years before the Renaissance age in Europe, and about 100 years before Giotto made his first paintings. And of course, in cemeteries you can find old trees. You know that people like to plant some trees along the graves of their beloved people, and this is Marciarbo. This is on again in Vitusha mountain, a very old oak tree in the cemetery. This church still exists, this one in the front, but not in this shape. And for our people, local people, they maybe recognize the Sveta Nedelya Church today, but this is the old building. But what I want to tell you here about this old church, which was established in 1241 and still exists, Sveta Petka or Saint Petka, there was an old tree which was cut, and people still used the log of this tree, an oak again. It has been about 400 years old at that time, and it has been planted by a bishop from Cyprus who have lived and worked here, and people considered it a very sacred place, and even some of them took some pieces, small pieces of this log, and brought them to their homes. This is one of the very newly announced oak trees, a yew, which is in the garden, in a small garden in the central area, just behind the mosque of the city. It was announced together with these plane trees in another park area, maybe less than a month ago.
Oh.
So it's
Fresh news then.
Fresh news, yes. And you know that there is a list of oak trees. You can download it from the site of the Ministry of Environment and Waters, and it is updated regularly there with all data about these trees. So this register is in Excel file, and there is a very good idea of this foundation called Eco Options or Eco Society. It is called Tree with a Root, and it is running now again, the campaign for this year, and a lot of people, all people who are interested could send pictures with stories about different trees. There is a, let's say, a section or something like this called Oak Trees, so they can apply there with pictures and stories about different trees, and then a jury decides which of the nomination will be a tree with a root for this year. And this tree applies in Tree of the Year Europe. And when I was preparing this presentation, I remembered the European Tree of the Year 2021 in Lecina, in España, and you can see the number of the votes for this tree. So maybe some of you will be interested to go there, to visit their site and to apply. And not long ago, there was another tree from Slovakia, a silk tree, and there were some Bulgarian oak trees which were number 2 or number 3, almost on the top, for a couple of years ago.
I don't remember if we won one.
I
don't remember.
I don't remember.
¿Qué veis ahora? Bien. Entonces, esta es la diapositiva 1.
No, vemos
Ahora
el
de la
conjunto.
7 a la 12. Ahora la 1.
Es que yo creo que debes de poner ahora.
Vale, entonces esto es 1 y lo habéis visto. Esto 2 y lo habéis
También.
visto. Esto 3 y lo habéis
También.
visto. Ay, teníais que decir. Y nosotros como no vemos el resto de esto lo habéis visto.
Sí.
Esto también.
Sí.
Esto.
También.
Vale, esta es Sofía hace no sé cuánto tiempo, el final del siglo XIX. Entonces, ¿esto lo habéis visto o no?
Hemos escuchado sobre esto.
Vale, entonces va muy rápidamente, Sasho. 2 o 3 palabras para cada diapositiva por si acaso. Vale, para refrescaros la memoria. Vale.
Gracias.
Entonces, Sofía, finales del
Gracias.
siglo XIX. Y Sofía ahora.
Marshruta.
Ah.
So again, this is the root of the old trees, which was established a couple of years ago. And this was why it is important to know more about old trees, about their genetic resources, let's say, health status, everything which could help us to make them more and more in the city, in the urban areas. And these are the tools how to know the age, health status, and everything through the years. With the Presser's borer, which is classical.
Le voy a cortar un poco la palabra. Esto no lo sé cómo se llama ni en inglés ni en español. Incluso tampoco lo sé en búlgaro. Se llama taladro. Juana, ¿sabes qué es esto?
A ver, yo eso lo conozco a nivel pequeño de casa, que es como un berbiquí, pero vamos, sí es un taladro. Lleva que vas girando y entonces se va introduciéndose.
Sí, y por dentro entra del árbol y después al sacarlo se puede ver qué tal el árbol. Vale, aquí lo podéis ver. Dice Alejandro como una biopsia.
And these are more modern methods, tomografía, resistograph, which helps us. And these are the trees in the former Royal Palace Garden. And using this borer, taladro, they established the age 208 years, and it happened in 1971. So you can see them today. And this is another old tree of this hero Vasilevsky, who used to leave his horse there when he was visiting the inns around the tree. And this was the funny thing that you can see here is 650 years. And this is here 220. And the real age is about 300 now. It was 228 in 1971. And this is the hero who used to leave his horse there when he was coming here. And this is the Oak of Ferdinand, planted in 1892 in the today's botanic garden of the University of Sofia. You can see it again. It's a very good shape, and you can see it's an oak tree, common oak tree, and you can see here in the middle the leaves, oak leaves, which are a symbol of eternity and a power and wisdom even. And this was the favorite tree species of King Ferdinand, who used to be, besides all this, all other things, a passionate botanist and entomologist. And that's why he liked to plant trees. And they say he left a golden coin in the roots of this tree when he planted it in 1892. And this is another root in venerable oaks in Lozenets, another district of the city. This is the former private forest of a father and a son who were writers and poets.
Vale. Ay, perdón. Y aquí viven mis familiares, aquí. Como no lo habéis visto la primera vez, ahora veis, ¿no? Ya.
Sí.
Vale.
So this is how we measured them, the diameter, and then first the girth and then the diameter. And this is another oak tree which unfortunately does not exist anymore. But these are still alive, and all they were planted by this poet and writer who is called the patriarch of the Bulgarian literature, and who used to sit there in the shade of the trees and write and talk to people and discuss a lot of things. And this is the Oak of Bezenschek, who used to work and live here, and the founder of the stenography, Bulgarian. And some plane trees in the central area of the city. These recent pictures from there, one week ago taken. And this tree to the right is about 500 years old now, in the outskirts of the city. And one of these trees were cut, and the trunk was used to water the animals in the zoo. And when they counted the tree rings, they were 400. And this is the monasteries and churches around the city, with old trees there again, and especially this church, which is under UNESCO's protection for its famous frescoes, which are ideally preserved until now. And of course, you can find some old trees in cemeteries. This is in Vitusha Mountain, a small village next to the city. And this is the place when another trunk was found of an oak 400 years old. And people used to take some small pieces and bring them home, just for luck and good hope. So, and these are some of the newest announced old trees. This yew, it grows very, very slow. So it seems to be a small one, but it's really not. And it's very old. And some plane trees. And this is about the competition tree with the roots. And people who nominate their trees there. And the tree which is the winner goes to Tree of the Year in Europe. And this is the winner from 2021, European Tree of the Year, which is in Spain.
¿Está lejos esta vecina de vosotros? Juana.
Tenéis que tener el micrófono cerrado. Que no sé dónde está la vecina. Voy a mirarlo.
Vale.
And that was in general. So thank you for your attention. Gracias por vuestra atención.
Grazie per l'attenzione.
Благодаря.
Dziękuję za uwagę.
И благодарю за внимание.
Да, разбира се.
Vale. Oye, perdonad, pero tenías que decirlo.
Sí, sí, está lejos. Acabo de ver.
Como no nos damos
Está en la provincia de Huesca.
Como no nos damos cuenta, como estaba la pantalla llena con la presentación, vale. Si alguna pregunta, para mí es una cosa, yo qué sé, árboles plantados por gente famosa y sale que los árboles también son famosos como son muy antiguos.
Una cosa, si os acordáis el año, bueno, una cuestión relacionada con eso, una pregunta es, cerca de Alicante, que está es el Palmeral. ¿Os acordáis que era Patrimonio de la Humanidad, que el año pasado nos lo enseñaron, cuando la movilidad? Las palmeras están censadas, o sea, tú no las puedes tocar, no tienen nombre, tienen número, bueno, tienen nombre, pero en un jardín que es botánico, o sea, no es el Palmeral de Elche. Y están también censados o algo parecido, están protegidos.
¿De los árboles centenarios me preguntan?
Sí.
Sí, están todos marcados con, vale, probablemente mejor que hable Sasho como es especialista.
Yes, they are protected by the law, and there is a list of register of oak trees, which you can download in Excel file from the Ministry of Environment or Regional Inspectorate of Environment and Waters, and it is updated regularly.
They are protected, yes.
Yes.
Most probably there is a list in your countries as well. I mean,
Yes.
This is according to the Bulgarian law, and I don't know the laws in Spain, Poland, and Italy. Probably you also have such a list or register for these trees. No idea. But this was curious for me that Spain was the winner of, this year, 2021. I didn't know. Well, if any questions in English, Spanish, comments, or comments in Italian, we probably could understand.
Venga, jóvenes, ¿os animáis?
Lo que quería decir que este árbol hay que voy en ambos idiomas. Pero como digo, inglés es para trabajar y español es amor, así que prefiero hablar español.
Oye, tú sí eres un amor, muchas gracias.
Este árbol que demostró Alejandro en el jardín botánico que está en el centro de Sofia, como el director del jardín botánico es mi colega de la universidad, le iba preguntando si es verdad que hay una moneda de oro en los raíces. Vale, él dice que no sabe, claro, tantos años, pero lo están protegiendo el árbol. Así que está en un jardín de verdad muy bonito y no dejan que la gente, vale, puede pasear al lado, pero lo cuidan mucho para no, vale, ni tener la idea que lo pueden cortar para coger la moneda esta, además que no se sabe si está o no. Pero vale, y es uno de los puntos que al estar en Sofía sí que vamos a visitar. Es un jardín perfecto de la universidad. Bueno, ¿alguna pregunta? ¿Algo que?
¿No se animan estos chicos?
Vale, pero con esta confusión de la presentación, oír solamente lo que se habla y no ver, bueno, un poquito ya. Pero bueno, vamos a subir la presentación, así que bien, si alguien...
Ya le mandaremos tareas para que practiquen. Como ahora no quieren participar, ya lo harán luego.
Vale. Yo como no veo bien. Vale. Entonces, si no hay preguntas o comentarios...
I actually have one question, if I can ask.
Sure.
What about trees that are ill or something? Do you just cut them or do anything about that?
They try to save them. They use special fillings in the empty spaces of the trunks, and they try to keep them in shape as much as possible. But if it's not anymore possible, they just cut them. And sometimes they
And
plant
if it's dangerous for
Sorry?
and if it's dangerous for the people, they just cut them.
If they are dangerous for the people, of course they would cut them. But not long ago, there was a presentation, a kind of presentation. They showed how they fill these empty spaces in the trunk. It was an elm tree, and it is still very good. It is still alive. But if they decide, there are arborists who take care of these trees, and if they decide they are dangerous for the people, they should be cut. And not long ago, they cut a couple of horse chestnuts in the city garden and immediately planted new ones there, the same species, because they're traditional for the city. But they were really dangerous, and unfortunately, sometimes it happens. They fall if there is a strong wind, and even if they are they seem to be good, in a good condition from the outside. They have some decays in the inside, and if we have no idea, they could fall down, and unfortunately there was even some people killed in Sofia, in Burgas, and some other places.
Okay, I was about to say then that from the outside you can not say if the tree is well or not. And sometimes in winter, when we have heavy snow or heavy conditions, winter conditions, they sometimes just fall down without
any reason particular.
Just being, I don't know, damaged from the snow or something like that. But if you see the tree, you can't say there is a problem. So this is one of the problems in Sofia, because we have old trees. We would like to keep them, but sometimes it turns that you have to cut them just because. Okay, you have some questions here.
Hay una pregunta en el chat.
Sí. Y eso lo tenéis escrito, pero nosotros como hemos visto solamente la presentación, vale. Okay, we answered the questions if they are sick.
What kind of suits they wear? Yes, they have some special dresses. I don't know how to call them, but costumes or something like this, with all these protection devices, and they just do their job.
And the other good thing, the other good thing, when they cut not only such trees, but when they cut trees in order to maintain them, they use the rests, the cut things, to produce pellets or things that could be used for heating, which is okay, good thing, I think.
On compost.
Yeah, or compost, yeah.
I also have a question. How many trees like that there are in the Sofia?
I don't remember the list. Maybe about 500. It's let's say about 19 or 20% of the protected old trees are on the territory of the city or the surroundings, and it takes second place in Bulgaria.
Wow, that's so many trees.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, but you saw the surroundings. I mean, the place where Sofia was built. So it was mountain and forests. Yeah.
Yes, it includes the outskirts as well, and the surrounding villages and small settlements, which are part of the municipality of Sofia. But you know, this list always changes, and it's being updated, and sometimes there are more, or sometimes they are a bit less. But I think it was 400 something, but nearer to 500.
Okay. Any other question or comment? Sorry about
Sí.
the presentation.
Sí, sí, y una pregunta. Si los árboles están en propiedad privada, no los pueden tocar, ¿no?
Ако са в частен имот, не можем да ги пипаме. Не може да се пипа.
Al estar protegidos.
Не може, трябва
Покажи го.
No, yes, the owner is responsible for this, and he has to even to pay for this. And the municipality and the regional inspectorate should demand that he does this work. But if something happens, the owner is responsible for everything.
Traduzco entendido.
It's okay.
Vale.
Sí.
Not long ago, I went to a village in central North Bulgaria, and there was an owner, a young man, 30-something years old, and he was applying for some silk trees to be announced, old trees, and they were really very old, but unfortunately in very bad health status. So yeah, you can write an application form to the regional inspectorate, and they make the expertise on their own, or they ask some people to come and do it. And when they write the expertise, they decide whether to apply for this tree to be announced an old tree or not. And if it is good enough to be announced, they do it. The ministry announces it, and then maybe it's published in the state gazette, and since then this tree is protected. But if it needs some measures, the regional inspectorate is the institution which should do them. And in this particular case, when they will make some recommendations to the owner to do what necessary, but it is on his own to do them or not, to decide, because they will be not officially announced old trees. And these application forms could be downloaded from the site of the regional inspectorate, or you just can write an official letter to the administration, and they have to come and see, to make the expertise, all measurements, health status, everything, coordinates, GPS, whatever, and to decide whether to announce it or not.
Okay, vale. Otra pregunta, another question?
I have a question.
Okay.
Like, is there any group of people that are against of cutting these trees?
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Of course, always people are very concerned, and sometimes they protest very much, sometimes not that much, but always they ask, why should you cut this tree or not? Of course, there are people, they say, you should cut this tree because it is dangerous. We can see it in windy weather, and we are afraid to pass under this tree. But usually there are people who protest against cutting them. And people always complain that the city should have more and more green spaces.
Yeah, it's one of the problems here that they are trying to reduce the green spaces.
Yes.
But yes, always people protest. The problem is that sometimes these trees, which are old, they could be really dangerous. So the authorities have to decide
Yes.
the real, I mean, probably the authorities, based on the investigations of people like Sasho, who can say this tree is okay, that is not. So they have to make the decision. Yeah.
Yes. And unfortunately, there is a lot of work for arborists here, but these people are very few still. I have seen what they do in Germany. It's completely different. And unfortunately, we have a lot to do in the future.
Okay. Fine. More questions or comments? Unfortunately, we don't know, or at least I don't know much about the century-old trees in your countries, as I have already said, but probably next time we will be more informed. Okay, so if no more questions, we probably just could say thank you to you to being part of our lecture, and thank you to Sasho to present us these things. Anybody? ¿Queréis añadir algo o decir algo? Porque, vale, acabo de dar las gracias a vosotros a estar presentes con nosotros para ver esto, y a Sasho, a Alejandro, para presentarnos los árboles antiguos de Sofía. Vale.
I remember now just a short question to the Polish people.
Oh.
Is there anybody in South Silesia? Or you're far from this region?
I mean, we're not living in Silesia, but I don't know if there is anyone from there.
Because I was wondering, because when I was telling you about the botanic garden of the Sofia University, it was established by the first Bulgarian botanist who died and is buried in South Silesia in a small village called Sokolovsko, just 3 kilometers from the border with the Czech Republic.
I didn't know that either. Okay.
So I was just asking if someone of you is near this region or this place.
Vale.
Yeah.
Vale, entonces, gracias a todos, Alejandro también. Y bueno, no sé cuándo nos vamos a ver de nuevo. Vamos a organizar alguna conferencia de nuevo. ¿O sabemos cuándo nos vemos, Juana? Que no me acuerdo.
No sé, tenemos que ver el programa, a ver cuándo tenemos la actividad, pero bueno, desde vacaciones podemos organizar algún debate.
Como decís
Me parece
vosotros, un día de estos.
Un día de estos, muy bien.
Vale, bueno.
Hoy ha sido un placer, ¿eh? Muchas gracias,
Muchas gracias
Alejandro.
a vosotros. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, nos pasáis la presentación y la subo a la web,
Claro,
¿vale?
claro, mañana te la paso. Vale. Vale, hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta la
Buenas
próxima.
tardes.
Adiós.
Adiós.
Goodbye.
Adiós. Adiós.
Adiós.